Hey everybody, so in this video I want to go deep with you about overcoming attachment, also called sticky desire, uncontrolled desire. It's a desire that is uncontrolled within us, meaning we don't have control over it and it's kind of running wild. In Buddhism, the mind is sometimes compared to being like a wild elephant that just runs amok and destroys villages. Like little marketplaces and villages can be set up and so nice, but a big wild elephant can just run through and destroy it in a moment. And that's what a rampaging moment of our mind can do, including when we have uncontrolled desire. It's the desire. It's also a desire for things that we can't control. Okay. Now, if you were investing your own, time and energy, like imagine it was like money. Would you invest it into things that you have no control over? Right? You're gonna have none of it left. Right? What I find is when I get attached to things I can't control, it's like putting one of my heartstrings on something outside myself. And whenever it goes good, I feel good, and whenever it goes bad, I feel bad, right? And the problem is we can't control these things, but the other problem is that they always will end up with pain. They're always going to end up with pain. It's not even a question. It's always, right? And so one way of thinking that we have to use that will, allow us to accept what I'm saying is we have to let go of this idea of like destiny and fate. I think like there's nothing really that's meant to be. It's really just what's the right thing in the moment to do, right? And so, sometimes we get attached to something and we think, oh, but maybe it's meant to be. Anyway, this is not a good strategy because it is a thing that we can't control. It's outside of ourselves. Any goodness that comes from it is completely temporary. It is also non-satisfactory. It's the salt water. It can't give us satisfaction. It changes into suffering. It will always change into suffering. In fact, the more we get it, the more suffering we'll get. The grass isn't greener. We have to remind ourselves of that. Okay? And so today I want to share with you 3 things that can be really useful in overcoming attachment because we've laid a pretty good foundation so far. Okay? And I hope this is useful to you. Okay, and I just got some coffee here. It's a little bit hot right now, but let's go into this. So the first one is actually about remembering. In Buddhism, we call it remembering the preciousness of our human life. Remembering the preciousness of our human life. But we can also call this just remembering our mission in life, remembering our soul's purpose, our higher calling, and just being more interested in our higher calling than we are in anything else, and just realizing if I only did one thing in life, it would be to fulfill this highest calling. And we want to get our heart involved in that. So this is where meditation really starts. Meditation is not just about calming the mind and getting peaceful. That is a preparatory stage of meditation. That's a preparation. Right, that's a preparation stage, right? And so, real meditation starts with changing our mindset. It starts with, allowing our heart to shift into new, positive, and better states, and meditating on those states so they become deeper. And so, the first one that's recommended is remembering the preciousness of our human life, or just remembering, the value of our life. Remembering how valuable of an opportunity our life is, and that our real purpose in life is not about material gains and possessions. It's not about these getting experiences of pleasure from things outside ourselves. That is not the purpose of our life. And so what is the purpose of our life? Well, the only way to really know about the purpose of our life is to look at the end results. Look at the end results and to think, what do I really want? What would actually give me what I want? And like we've been talking about, we already have a wish to be happy all the time. Let me know if you'd like to be happy all the time or just part of the time. And we want to be free from suffering all the time, forever, all suffering. Like, do you want to be free from some suffering or all suffering? And would you like to be free forever or just for some small amount of time? We want to be free forever from all suffering, and we want to be happy all the time. And there's only one way to fulfill this wish. There's only one way, and it's through spiritual experience, spiritual progress, spiritual attainment, enlightenment, liberation, walking and making progress on the spiritual path. That is the only way. That is the only way. Some people find their spiritual practice and path within religion and religious circles. That's good. I've done that. Some people do it outside of religion. That's also good. You can do it anywhere. A spiritual practice is more of like the essence. A religion can be a container, right, to deliver nectar, right? So if someone who's really practicing a spiritual path, they're like drinking nectar from a jar, from a vase, or whatever you call it, right? And the religion can be a container, right? It can be a conduit for the spiritual essence, and sometimes they are, sometimes they're not, and sometimes they're mixed. I think there's a lot of things that are mixed. I think there are pure religions that also transmit pure lineages. I was part of one, right? When people bash religion, they only think of their own concept of religion. They don't think of all of what that could be because they don't know. And so, yeah, religion is just an organized way of practicing a spiritual practice, right? And it can be really good, although in this world, at this time, a lot of religions have been corrupted, in my opinion. And so the mainstream version of them is ceasing to be a path to liberation and enlightenment. But that doesn't mean that the essence is bad. Maybe the essence is really good. And maybe there are some sects of it that practice purely. And so, anyway, my point is that you can find your spiritual practice in lots of ways. And the main point is just to do it. Because by fulfilling your purpose, you will gain happiness all the time. And you'll be free from suffering all the time. And that's what we really want. At the end of the day, that's what's going to make us happy, right? And so what we want to do is start seeing our life and each day of our life as being a sort of container or a channel in which we can move closer towards our main purpose. And what we want to do is not get lost in the little minor moments of life. The little minor moments, the little minor pleasures. It doesn't feel like a minor pleasure when so-and-so is giving you attention and looks like they like you and blah, blah, blah. It doesn't feel minor, but at the end of the day, at the end of our life, there's no satisfaction that we can gain from this, right? Now, if we're getting messages from God or a higher power or a spiritual guide or whatever to go for something, then we have to go for that thing. But that is not, to do that purely would be to detach from the outcome and just do it because your spiritual guide told you to, and you just do it the best you can because you know it's the right thing to do. That's a process-oriented mindset that is never going to bring you suffering, right? If your spiritual guide told you to and you have faith, then you just do it, right? Yeah, and so, yeah, if we're getting attached to something, it means we're focused on the outcome, but we're not focused on real outcomes. We're focused on potential outcomes, right? The potential outcomes that actually are not in alignment with reality. Anyway, so think about the end of our life. Think about the moment of our death. What do you think will have mattered at that moment? It's usually just the contents of our heart. Did I fill my heart with the right things? Was I the best person I could be? Did I grow spiritually? According to my belief, we have multiple lives and we go on to our next life. And so the progress we make in this life leads us into our next life. And everything that we gain in this life, we have to be left behind, right? It has to be left behind. So everything outside of ourself in life, we have to leave it behind. And so there isn't any meaning in cultivating things outside yourself because it's just so temporary. Because even though they don't even give you real happiness, even if they did, you'd still have to leave them behind. And so why focus on something that you have to leave behind when you get to take something with you, right? Yeah, we take our heart with us. We take the good things and the bad things that we've done with us. We take our mindset and our, our tendencies with us, our good deeds, our bad deeds. Yeah, the contents of our heart essentially is what we take with us. And this is what gives us satisfaction anyway. By releasing negative things from our heart and by cultivating positive things in our heart. This is where satisfaction comes from. Meditation is simply a tool to accomplish this. It's not because meditation makes you peaceful and calm. Like, that's not actually the main point of meditation. It is, but only because we know that by changing our mindset and by actually filling our heart with good things and releasing the bad things, that's what gives us permanent happiness and freedom, right? We're not just focused on the temporary happiness and freedom and peace that comes from doing some breathing. That's just a preparation step so that we can do the real work, which is more of a contemplative meditation, where we actually meditate on, say, the wish to make our life meaningful. We meditate on decision to use each day to grow and to benefit others. We meditate on powerful decisions to love people and be the best version of ourselves, and to fill our heart with good things and to release all bad things. Decisions like that can change our life. And meditation can be used to make those decisions, right? Not just in an empty way, but to actually do the inner thought process that leads us to the conclusion of, oh my God, I have to do this. There's actually nothing else I could be doing, right? There's nothing else I should be doing. There's nothing else that can make me happy except doing this work, right? By noticing my negative states of mind, such as anger and attachment, by just learning what they are, learning how they arise, learning to see that they are negative and that they hurt me and they hurt others. And there's no benefit to them at all. There's literally nothing good that they do either. By noticing this, we start to think about, oh, I better do some work now. I better do the inner work, right? I better learn how to release them. I better learn how to let them go and try to stop them from arising. You can stop a negative emotion from arising or from gaining power by learning to stop feeding it and learning to disassemble its causes, right? Repressing something means that it's there and you push it down so that you can't see it, right? But that's not helpful at all. What we want to do is just learn to recognize it, and we learn to either stop feeding it and we learn to disassemble its causes, meaning one of the causes of a negative emotion is what we call inappropriate attention. We already talked about this. So inappropriate attention is where we pay attention to something in a way that brings on a delusion. And so if it's someone that we're angry at, or we're getting angry, or we're about to get angry, we're going to notice that we're really focused on the faults and the bad things, the negative things, right? It's not just the harm that we've received, it's the fact that they did it, right? They're a harmer. They're so harmful. We focus on the negative qualities of that person, and we kind of meditate on it, and it becomes stronger and stronger until we have a big exaggerated version of the person that doesn't exist, and then we wish to harm them in some way, right? So that is basically, if you notice this, then you can just stop doing it. You could be oh, I'm not going to feed it anymore. I'm going to stop that train of thought. I'm going to put my mind on something else. I'm going to go for a walk, do some breathing. I'm not going to focus on the train of thought that's feeding this delusion. That's a way to stop delusions without repressing it. It's just, you just cut them off when you notice them, and you don't feed them any longer, and you disassemble one of the causes. One of the causes is always inappropriate attention, right? And so you just take that away, right? Okay, yeah. And so, for example, you could do that with attachment, right? If you notice that you're starting to like think about the good qualities of a person and really like lavish them up, and they're all shiny, and you start to like meditate on like how good they are and all the things, like your mind analyzes them, and it's all this juicy, it's like porn, it's like pornography. It's like that type of mindset that's like drooling over a thing, but it's a process, and it starts to build and build and build, and we need to learn how to like stop and redirect our mind. Now with attachment, that is harder. That's way harder. And so that's why a lot of people will do what I'm about to recommend when they overcome attachment. We talked about this in the last video. Learning to like kind of go cold turkey a little bit, like put yourself around less things that you're attached to temporarily, so that you can go from neutral to positive, right? Attachment is really sticky. I'm not saying that it's easy to get out of. It is not. It's a sticky mess, okay? And in order to like really gain mastery of the tools to overcome attachment, we have to practice them from essentially from a neutral state, or from when we're even feeling good. And so we want to like get ourselves into a neutral space before we learn to overcome attachment, right? So like instead of like battling it when it's already developed, it's hard. We want to just like try to like put ourselves just by ourselves around nobody else, and just, you know, do the work when there is no screaming situation at us. And the meditation that I'm recommending is helpful, and the ways of thinking that I'm recommending are helpful. And if you just think about them when you're neutral, and even when you're feeling good and positive, it'll give you some familiarity with the tools. And then, yeah, it'll help you go from neutral to positive in terms of like learning how to release attachment. It'll help you to learn it when there is no dangerous situation around, because it's harder. And then when you do have little sticky situations arise, you'll notice them faster because you're already used to feeling happy in a peaceful way. And then the little sticky attachment starts to rise, and you can start to think, oh, actually that's not, it's not worth going down that rabbit hole. I don't want to get tangled in that mess. It's just not worth it. It's not worth my peace, right? So that's good. And then, yeah, try to do the work in a neutral space or in a positive space, including really thinking about your life purpose, thinking about your life mission, thinking about what you're here to do, thinking about your deathbed goals, what you really want. And again, deathbed goals can even be misleading if you don't realize that, yeah, you have to start realizing that nothing outside yourself can make you happy. And only your own positive states of mind can make you happy. And only your own, and positive actions, positive states of mind and positive actions, right? Doing good deeds from a good intention also can make you happy. And learning how to stop doing bad things, stop doing things with a negative intention, or just stopping yourself and learning how to stop feeding negative states of mind. That is, that is so important. And doing that work when things are pretty good is the way to make the most progress, in my opinion. And you can even start considering it like your most important priority of life. Again, like, who cares what other people think? If you're not happy, you're going to be miserable, right? And so we just have to like do the important work for us regardless of what people think. Yeah. Okay. And so I feel like that's pretty good for this video. So I told you I would talk about 3 things The first one was life purpose. The second one was death. Remembering that you're going to die will help you to let go of attachment to things of this life, because the things of this life are temporary. The analogy given is like if you were to travel and stay in a guest house, like a vacation home, for just one day, one night. Even if the house is really nice, you wouldn't get attached to it. You wouldn't get attached to the things in it because you're leaving tomorrow, right? But if you think you're going to be there for a long time, maybe you start getting attached. And so with this life, because we start thinking that this life is so long, and we start thinking this is all there is, and we start thinking that we're not going to die, then we get attached to all the things in life, right? Because we don't think we're going to leave them behind. But once we start remembering that we're going to leave everything behind, when we really remember that you're going to leave everything behind, and that you actually don't even know when that's going to happen. Nobody knows the day they're going to die. Everybody on the day of their death, they think it's going to happen on a different day. The only exception is maybe if it's like a terminal illness, but those terminal illnesses can come on at any time, actually, right? Strong and healthy people die before their parents. They die every day in accidents. Some people die the moment they're born. There's no certainty. There's no certainty at all about the time of our death. No, it's always today. When somebody dies, it's always today for them. It's never tomorrow. It's always today for their experience, right? And for you, it's always going to be a today. Whenever you die, is a today. It may not be today, but it's a today. And it is going to happen at some point, and we don't know when. And there's a lot of things that could cause it. So by thinking in this way, we start to realize that life is very temporary and fragile and sort of not permanent. And we start to realize that where we're going after our death is actually more important, because we're going to spend more time there. Now, in Buddhism, we talk about future lives, countless future lives, countless past lives, right? And I would say that we're going to continue to have future experiences that are a continuum of our experiences in this life. So if you haven't resolved something in this life, you're going to still have it in your next life. If you haven't resolved certain tendencies, and if there's certain karma and trauma, like, you're going to bring it all with you. So you want to use your life to resolve these things. And, you don't want to end up in a suffering place. It's said that a human who meets a pure spiritual path is very rare. It's very possible to be born in countries without pure spiritual practices in the future, or to be born as animals and so on, where we don't get the opportunity to practice a spiritual path. So right now, because you do have that opportunity, it's important to take advantage of it and to use every day to practice it, because it's the only way to gain true happiness and freedom. Okay, so that's the second thing I want to talk about, was the time of death is uncertain and death is certain. And so use your life now to practice your spiritual practice without waiting, and don't get attached to the things of this life, because you're going to leave them behind and they can never give you real happiness anyway. So that's the second point I wanted to make. And then the third is just play the tape forward. If you're considering about following some state of mind, if it feels like attachment, sometimes it feels like attachment and you're just not sure if you should follow it or not. Just play the tape forward and bring some wisdom in. Play the tape forward, think, okay, if I really followed this through, what would happen? If I do this and do this, and at the end I'm gonna suffer, and so I'm not even gonna go down that rabbit hole. So playing the tape forward is a good way, with wisdom, is a good way to just realize ahead of time that there's a trick involved, that you're not really gonna get what you're looking for. And then you just stop. You stop going after it. And you just can stay peaceful. There's a saying in German, he who has choice has torment, right? And when I was first training to be a monk, I was practicing taking the vows of a monk every day for one day at a time without telling anyone. So I didn't tell anyone for months, except for my teacher. He told me to do this. because you can get a lot of validation if you tell people, oh, great, you're going to be a monk, and you can get all this false sense of satisfaction. But if you just test it out in private and you like it, that's a good sign, right? And so I didn't tell anybody, and for every day I took the vows of a monk, but instead of taking them for life, I just took them for one day at a time, but then I did it every day. And during this time, I looked like a normal person, right? I didn't have anything that looked like a monk on me. And women would come to visit the temple like usual, and I was a young man, right? And I didn't have much contact with pretty girls, and so if they would come to visit the temple, I would usually become very interested in talking to them and introducing myself and being the friendly guy who could talk, who could show them around or answer their questions or make them feel comfortable or whatever. And when I was taking these vows, I realized that I decided not to. I didn't do it. And the thing is, I actually felt happier not doing it, because what would happen when I had the choice of whether to do it or not is I would sit with the choice. I would see her in the distance and I would wonder, should I go talk to her? Should I not? And this choice itself was giving me this torment. It was giving me this anxiety. I was on the edge and I was unpeaceful because I couldn't decide, and because it was my attachment that was drawing me to it anyway. But once I decided, nope, I'm just not going to do that because it was outside of what a monk should do. I just thought like being a monk involves practicing contentment and not doing things that are meaningless and no sexual activity. And so I just thought, what's the point, right? And I thought, okay, I'm not going to do this. You know, a monk wouldn't do this right now, especially if the motivation is to get lucky or whatever. And so I decided not to. But because I decided right away not to, I actually felt so much more peace and freedom with the decision to not do it. I was like, okay, I'm not going to do it. And I felt so happy and content in that choice, because the other choice was eating me alive. And so that's really the thing with attachment, is just by making the choice not to follow it, we actually gain so much peace and freedom and contentment, because trying to figure out what to do to get our needs met and to meet our desires and to get the thing we want is so time and energy consuming. We just dump all our energy into it. But like if you just decide, no, I'm not going to follow that up, if you have it now you have it, and you can put it somewhere that actually makes you happy. Okay, hopefully this is helpful. Please do enjoy, and I'll see you in the next video. Please do continue some sort of meditation practice. Okay, talk to you soon.